What were you or your kids thinking about when you were 6 years old? Or even, let's say, up to 12 years old? For me, I was mostly getting in trouble, but I can assure you I was not thinking about much of anything that was really important in the real world. I was really in my own world. Can you imagine being 6 and wondering what you could be doing to make rescue animals live a life that's just a little bit better? Like, finding homes for them. Or how about this one? Making them the symbolic pet for your home state. Now, again, I'm just saying it right, 6 years old. In today's episode, Ethan and his mom, Miche Branscum, they joined me. Ethan, with his mom's support, funded Ethan's Rescue Pet Project. He's the ripe old age of 12 now. Now, you know how some people are just born with a purpose? Well, Ethan and his mom, they're those type of people. They were born with a purpose. Now, you always hear me use the word passion a lot in the show, and believe me, this family is the epitome of passion. Now, here's a little insight to this episode. Remember this, at 6, Ethan wanted to create recognition for rescue pets by making them the symbolic pet of Kentucky and then the entire U.S. Now, you heard me right, this 6-year-old had a plan. Now, wait till you hear all the details. And that's just one of his pet projects, pun intended. Now, here's some other ones. He has a city ordinance in his name to eliminate the sale of pets from puppy and kitty mills. He's writing a series of books all about pets. He has a youth organization that he's started. Now, the list goes on. Now, this is a story about family, the support of their amazing son, and their passion for animals. I've been so excited to get this one to you, and what a pleasure it was to meet and talk to a mom and son, and as a parent, it was so fun to interview both of them together, and trust me, they're definitely a family. You're going to see what I mean. Now, in a world of crazy these days, how refreshing it was to meet such a tight, loving family, and one that's making a huge difference in the rescue world. We should all strive to be just like them.
For real, 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 for real. Got a bunch of furry friends and I love them all the same. I'm an animal lover, veterinarian is the name. Let's share some pet stories from heartwarming to strange, losses and gains, from wacky to insane. For real. You're now tuned in to For Real with your host, Mark Kyle.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the For Real Podcast. Today, my guests are Miche and Ethan Branscum, and wait till you hear our story. I tell you truthfully, for you guys that know me out there, this is one I've been really wanting to do. I'm excited to introduce you to these guys. So Ethan has, well, I guess together they have, but we have a rescue called Ethan's Rescue Pet Project. And I can remember the name for one reason. I'll tell you guys later when we get into this thing. Hey, guys, welcome to the show. Introduce yourself and let's start telling everybody your great stuff.
Yeah, I'm Ethan from Ethan's Rescue Pet Project. Behind me is my mom, Miche.
And I'm Miche, the mom.
Well, I tell you what, the mom behind every really smart person is generally a mom. So, and I can tell you guys listening, Miche is a smart one. Guys, I'm so excited to do it. So, Ethan, I'm going to actually let you guys talk however you want. I want to talk about. Let's actually, Miche, let's start with you as I think about it. Let's talk about you. We talked earlier about you and animals and that because Ethan's learned a lot of the stuff from you. And of course, he's gone off in his own tangent. But let's talk a little bit about you because the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Well, I've been involved in animal rescue for a while. I just kind of grew up in it. When I was 14, I decided I wanted to do some volunteer work. So I went to volunteer at, the animal shelter and the local vet clinic. It's just something I've always been drawn to. And I've been involved with humane societies, fostering animals, that sort of thing. One big group I was with, and I really like this group. This is something you may want to think about. It's called Guardian Angels for Soldiers Pet. And they foster animals for deployed service members.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just something I've always done. I love animals. I was an only child, so animals were kind of my friends growing up. You know how it is if you're an only. Ethan is an only too.
Sure.
And it's kind of interesting because it's nice to see Ethan take what I've kind of been involved with and take it far more abroad than I ever did. So he's taking the relay torch, I guess.
Well, he's taking you on the ride for sure. Now, when you were growing up, did you have a lot of dogs and cats and whatever else?
I did. I have had, dogs and cats my whole life. I've never not had one, actually. And it's kind of funny because whenever I was about Ethan's age, my mom and I had an apartment, and we had a cat that we kind of snuck in because we weren't supposed to have her. Um, in college, we had a cat we weren't supposed to have. It's just those things. I've never had a period I didn't have one. And that may not be something I need to admit to, is it?
No. That's something you have to admit to. Is remember what I said earlier. Be bad, but be bad in a good way. That's a good way to be bad. So anyway, so you had all these animals. Now, were they all rescues? Or I mean, it's funny because growing up, I didn't have that many rescues. As I got older, we did, because it really wasn't the thing back in the day. It's way more now. And of course, you guys are doing a lot with that, and we're going to get into that. But were yours rescues, or were the old traditional way?
Most of them were, but it was rescue in a different kind of way.
Uh-huh.
My grandmother had a pet poodle, and we had a mean little chihuahua. And I say that because, all chihuahuas have attitudes, right?
Oh, yeah, I had one.
They have one owner, and the kids, Flick-It was its name, and it didn't care so much.
That's a great name.
But, we've had a couple of purebreds, but mainly I grew up on a farm, and we lived out in the country. And, a few years back, one of the things, and probably still to this day, about living in the country, if you get to be known as the animal lovers, then you end up with a lot of animals.
Oh, yeah.
So we had a lot that just kind of showed up, including a duck, which is a funny story.
I had 2 pet ducks growing up. I'll tell you that story later.
Yeah. So we had an injured duck show up at our house, and it had whiplash, and my mom and I were out there one morning trying to catch this duck because it was running around with its head hung over. We just knew it was dying, and we didn't want it to just die,
Uh-huh.
We took this duck to the vet, and they made a little splint for its neck, which is hilarious in hindsight because, it had this.
Yeah.
And, we actually raised, we kept the duck, and we got the little duck better. But yeah, we just kind of accumulated animals, I guess, is the way to put it.
Well, ducks are great, watchdogs. My ducks' names, I just want to tell you their names. It was Frick and Frack. True story. In college. I had them in college.
That's all.
Anyways, so you had those things, and you did that. Now let's fast forward. Out pops this kid called Ethan. And next thing you know, you've adopted another crazy animal, Ethan. Anyways, so when did Ethan, while you're here, so when did you really start? I'm sure you guys had rescue animals already, right?
Yeah, we had Molly, a bull terrier, Smarty Jones, a little scruffy little terrier we found that somebody shot and thrown in a garbage can. Who else did we have? Liberty. We found her on the side of the road. Yeah, we had them.
And now we have Hank, a British bull terrier.
I love the name Hank, by the way.
And Dixie, Italian greyhound.
Oh, you need to listen to the episode about greyhounds. It was rescued greyhounds, so you'll really like that one.
Well, she's not full-blooded. She's a mix, but
okay.
Yeah, but she has greyhound tendencies and greyhound legs and a body and a cute little hound dog head.
Yeah, that sounds like my dog. My dog looks like a Mexican rat dog, actually, but she's got hound in her for sure, so I know what that's like. So getting back to you, Ethan, so at what point, I mean, we're going to get into this whole thing with you've been trying to do this thing with the government and all that, but let's talk about you growing up and you loving animals, and let's start getting into what you're doing now.
Well, honestly, when I really started working with animals was, I think I was 5 or 6.
Hey, Ethan, hold on one second. Tell everybody that's listening, because your birthday was just in October, and how old were you then?
I am 12.
Okay, so you guys listen to this story. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
I think it was when I was 5 or 6, early 5 or 6. I would go to our local shelter to take pictures of the shelter pets, just to share online.
But Ethan, so you just decided that your own? Was your mom already going there and doing things? I mean, what made you decide you wanted to do that?
You just decided it.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Really, just decided one day I want to go take pictures of all these guys?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Okay, sorry to interrupt. By the way, I'm going to apologize now. I'm going to do this a bunch of
You're
times. But
fine.
okay, good. Go ahead.
And we did that for a while, and then when I was 6, me and my mom were watching the news, and we saw that Ohio had made their state pet the rescue pet, and I decided that that might be a good idea for Kentucky. So,
Explain to everybody what you mean by being the state pet, being their rescue pet. Tell because I want you to get into details so everybody understands what we're talking about.
well, basically it would just be a symbolic animal, sort of like how the national bird is the bald eagle.
Right.
Um, it doesn't really change any laws. It just makes a little symbol and hopefully raises awareness about animals in shelters.
Right. In the shelters like Ohio, would be all the animals that were rescued from a shelter in Ohio, saved or whatever. And what you're trying to do in Kentucky is the same thing. If they're rescued in Kentucky, those animals are the state symbolic pet.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And I wrote a letter to our state representative at the time. He's not the local state representative anymore, Joe Gravis.
6 years ago.
Who's Joe Gravis, and honestly, I didn't really expect for it to get introduced, but he loved the idea, so he introduced it into the House, and it passed the House committee really well.
And so you wrote this letter. How did you know how to write a letter? I mean, how do you know what to write in the letter? Walk me through the research you did because I wouldn't know how to do it right now myself. So talk a little bit about it because you make it like, oh, I just wrote a letter. That's not exactly what you did because you had to learn about that and all that. Can you give me a little bit more background on that?
Well,
That's kind of what we did. It was a learning exercise. He said that was a good idea. And I thought, let's figure out how to do this because
Right.
We always want to teach new skills, right? And
Right, exactly.
honestly, I thought that would be the end of it. We looked up who our representative was. I went and looked up the webpage. Kentucky's got this nice little webpage that you just put your address in and it will pull up the rep. So we did all that, and it was a simple little letter. I want to say it was just like, I think we should make rescue pets the state pet or something. It wasn't, he was 6. It wasn't very
it was just a quick, short little letter written.
But they got back to you though, which is really cool. So you wrote the simple letter and then they got back to you, right?
Yes.
Which is so cool.
Yeah. And it got introduced into the House.
Well, wait. So when they got back to you, they said, "Hey, Ethan, we love this idea." And then, is there any more that you had to do at that point? I mean, how did it work?
Well, I remember we met with Representative Gravis.
That's cool.
A couple of times, and then he introduced it into the House committee. I actually got to testify in the House committee.
Oh, picture, which is really cool too. I can't imagine. That's intimidating.
I'm going to jump in here on that because I got a call from Representative Gravis. I want to say either the morning of or the evening before because these things are short notice. And he said, the bill's going to be in committee tomorrow. Would Ethan want to come down and watch? And of course, I'm like, sure. Remember, at this point, he's 7. He's had a birthday. We've rolled over. He's 7 years old. And I'm like, sure, I'll bring him down. So, he had it was in the spring, so he had his Easter outfit. He has a little suit and tie. So we go down there.
Right.
And when we get there, the representative asked if he wanted to sit at the table. So I'm like, okay, And he's like, yeah, I do. Then he said, well, would he want to talk? And I, looked at him and he's like, yeah. So anyway, long story short, this 7-year-old goes in, not prepared. We didn't prepare at all. We're new to this.
Mom's not prepared either, by the way.
Mom's not prepared. We're not prepared. We didn't prepare a statement, nothing.
Yeah. I kind of just did it, weighing it.
Yeah, he did it. And he sits down at the table between 2 representatives because at this point we had found a co-sponsor, which was,
Representative Kevin Bratcher.
Yeah, Kevin Bratcher. So he sits down between these 2 state representatives in front of a committee of I want to say 12 or 13 and goes, I think we should do this because I think it would make people more inclined to adopt animals if they were the state pet. I'm like, where'd that come from? You know?
You're going, that's my boy. I know what you're doing.
Yeah. And he has done that on more than that occasion, by the way, where he gets
Well, I know we're going to get into some other stuff. Don't worry.
not prepared and he just comes off with this wonderful presentation, you know?
Some people are just born with it. So anyways, so Ethan, you tell them they should do this. Then what's the next, what happens after that?
Well, they actually end up passing the bill. I don't think it got any votes against it.
No,
It
not in
passed-
committee.
Yeah, in the committee it passed completely.
Right.
And it went on to the House of Representatives, where it passed with only 2 votes against it.
Why did they ever say why they voted against it?
I don't know. I really don't know. I
Because
can't
stupid
remember.
is what stupid does. That's what it is.
I can't remember if it was they voted against it or did they just abstain. I can't remember. It's been like
Yeah.
7 years, so we're 6 years. So
I know he's so old now. So anyways, it passed with, except for the 2 people that are knuckleheads, but then go on.
But unfortunately, as soon as it gets into the Senate, COVID happens.
Okay.
And they pretty much ended up only passing a budget, and it didn't pass. And the representative who was really helping, which was Joe Gravis, he was really a big driving force on that, didn't win the next election, and it just lost momentum.
Okay. So now COVID happens. Now let's, and I know we're still working on it, and I want to get there, but let's go. What were you doing during COVID since that didn't pass? Because I know, without knowing, I know you were doing a lot of stuff with animals. So tell me what you were doing. I just want to hear the story.
Well, we did quite a bit of stuff during COVID.
Of course.
Let's see. We started our online page, which is when we got the name Ethan's Rescue Pet Project. Before that, we were just doing Bill. And we started making what we call the Animal of the Day and the Pet of the Day. The Pet of the Day is a animal that we find on Pet Finder or some kind of an online website.
Mm-hmm.
And we share that animal online to hopefully get them adopted. And the Animal of the Day is a wild animal that we share facts about and a link to learn more online.
Okay, so one thing I read about on some article, are you still doing the rescue report you do once a week or something? What is that, by the way?
we kind of got away from that. That was his big COVID project, and he interviewed some awesome people. Like the governor of Kentucky sat down with him.
See, we also did Charlotte Maxwell Jones
from KSAR, Cobble Small Animal Rescue. The Victory Dogs, Michael Vick's dogs. There was a gentleman that talked to him about those.
About Michael Vick's dogs, really?
Yeah, one of the people
who adopted
one of the Victory dogs sat down and talked to him about it.
Now let's hold on for 1 second. So for you guys listening, if you don't know the story, do you guys want to talk a little bit about Michael Vick? I mean, without going, let's don't spend a lot of time on that just so they understand what that is. I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, Ethan's looking at me like, I don't remember. And he just remembers talking to him. Michael Vick, the whole dog fighting thing kind of predates. But yeah, it was a dog fighting ring. And they called them.
Wasn't it at his house or something like that?
Yeah, and they called the dogs the Victory Dogs because they were dogs that were rescued. And I think they had like 49 or 50, and all but 2 were able to be successfully rehabilitated and placed. And the gentleman we talked to is Rue Yori, and he actually was really cool because he was on American Ninja Warrior.
Oh, really?
And I forget. Oh my gosh. I can't remember what he called it, but you can look it up. It's Rue Yori because that's what he was talking to you about is Hector, which was his dog, and trying to raise money and awareness about, breed bans and things like that through American Ninja Warrior.
That's cool.
Yeah. But he has a name, and I can't remember the name of his organization. It's driving me crazy.
Okay, we'll figure it out. And worst case scenario, I'll put it on the description, and while we're talking. But so you're doing that. What else were you doing during the time when everybody was doing nothing and you're doing everything? So what else were you doing?
Well, we continued to try and get the bill passed.
And you were raising money for the
Yes.
shelter in Franklin County.
Yes, we also helped raise money for our local shelter because the Franklin County Humane Society's shelter was built in a floodplain, and they every year had to evacuate the dogs whenever the Kentucky River flooded, even just a minor amount because it was built right along the bank of the river.
Oh, that's too bad.
And that was successful.
That was successful.
Yeah.
So now we have a brand new shelter, really far away from the floodplain.
Oh, so the money you were raising was so they could move to a different location?
Yes, they
Okay.
they built this amazing, multi-million-dollar state-of-the-art shelter. It's cool. It's got like a amazing vet clinic inside. They can do spay neuter surgeries.
They also
treat animals.
They also have artificial grass to where whenever the dogs does their business, it automatically cleans it up
Really? That's cool.
itself.
So yeah,
I needed one of those growing up because I was one cleaning up all the dog poop in the backyard always.
we got it like go through it and it gets rinsed off. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Okay, so you did that. What else did you do during that time?
What did you do?
I think that the supply drives.
Yeah, they kind of started on the end of it.
They kind of started towards the tail end of COVID.
Okay, I know one thing you've done because there's several things that we should talk about. So as you're continuing to do to get this bill across, you realize that a lot of people don't know a lot about the government.
Okay.
So
Oh, yeah.
I think that's where to go. So you decided what? So let's talk about that.
Well, we started Ethan's Youth Animal Advocacy Project, where we teach kids about animal rescue and civics. We usually do a lesson course every school year. Last year we did building an animal shelter.
Mm-hmm.
We made a budget for that animal shelter, like a fake blueprint for the shelter.
You created resumes and a hiring committee and hired each other for roles.
Mm-hmm.
So in your group, it's not just there in Kentucky, it's all over the place, right?
Yeah, we have kids New York, South Carolina, Oregon,
Spain, India.
Yeah.
And how did you find all these people? How did they find you, I guess?
We kind of started this. This was sort of on the end of COVID, and that's why I was like, that's all we did during COVID. But I was in a few moms groups online, and you know how mom groups are. And I just mentioned, we're thinking about doing this, and it just kind of took off.
So it sounds to me, aside from just learning civics, you're learning how to be business people at some level or to know how to manage a project. It's pretty cool.
The thing I'm really, really proud about with the group is we are learning, and this is an aside, and I don't know if you know this or not. I actually ran for state representative last year, and I did that.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, yes, that's the best thing ever.
I'm not a state representative, so
unfortunately,
I didn't win. But one of the main driving forces was the kids, and I say that because what we're working on this year is the kids are learning how to run a campaign so that when they grow up, they may possibly, decide to run for office themselves. And so I'm kind of putting what I learned to them, and they've created their own political parties. They have the Paws and Claws.
Oh, that's cool.
They created their own logo, their campaign or the party platforms. They have designed roles for themselves on we have people who are actually going to be our candidates that are now or are former candidates, but they are campaign managers, treasurers, social media managers. They decided what role they would want to do on a campaign, and they're learning about that. They've done a campaign, treasury, budget. Sorry, I can't think of the word.
Taking roles in the campaign.
Yeah, created ads, things like that. So, and they're going to do a debate. So I'm really proud of that, honestly.
But you know what, Miche, what's so cool about that, regardless if you won or lost, the experience you had from doing that, you can pass it on to these kids so they understand what that is. That's a great learning tool.
It was an experience, and I'm glad I did it. Honestly, I'd do it again.
Well, then do it again. There's elections every now and then, I heard.
It it's one of those things. It was unsuccessful, but it was an experience. Ethan and I knocked on doors. It was an experience. So I'm glad I did it. If anybody ever thinks about running for office, whatever party you're in, just if you think about it, do it.
Well, the other thing too is I'm sure you can look back and say, okay, I should have done this differently. If I'd done this, we'd probably been more successful and all that.
Mm-hmm.
The best thing about, that I always tell people the best thing about playing sports is losing, because when you lose, you learn how to win.
Right.
So that's really the case. And if you don't lose, then you don't know how to win because you've won all the time.
We try to stay non-political, and that's kind of weird, but what's the word?
Partisan.
Thank you. I'm like, I can think of non-denominational. That's not it. We try to stay non-partisan. That's one of the reasons I chose to have the kids make their own parties, because I want to take that out of this. We're dealing with kids. We don't want them to feel like they have to draw, sides or whatever. So we kind of try to have fun with it.
Well, I think the way that, the political system is right now, regardless of what side is on, it's so
volatile.
Everybody's against everybody else. So let's figure out a better way to do it. Maybe these paws and claws guys can figure something out. Seems like there's a lot of claws out these days, but not so many paws. At the end of the day.
For real, 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 for real.
And we'll be right back. We are supported by PrepVet, providing stem cell therapy for pets.
As a pet lover, did you know your pet can benefit from the incredible healing power of stem cell therapy? Prep Therapy offers a groundbreaking solution taken right from your pet's own blood. Say goodbye to joint pain, arthritis, kidney and liver conditions, and more. They'll experience faster recovery, increased vitality, and extended quality of life without the need for surgery or harmful drugs. Put the wag back in their tail and discover Prep Therapy today at PrepVet.com. Save 10% with promo code FurRealPodcast, covered by most pet insurance.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience and their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.
Okay, so now you've got your group, you're doing that, and you're also having people come in and speak to your group and all that kind of stuff too, right?
Yeah. Let's see, I forget. I'm glad you're asking questions, because we forget what we're doing.
Well, you're doing too much. I'm telling you now, take a breath every now and then.
They have speakers come and talk to the group, and some of them have been amazing, like
the Custos Foundation and
the Custos Society.
The Custos Society, a shark researcher from South Africa
who's working on a documentary for Shark Week, and Save the Manatees. Who else? The Wolves.
Yes, the International Wolf Center.
Mm-hmm. And the cats.
Minnesota. Yeah, the Wildcat.
Yeah, the Wildcat
Rescue
Sanctuary.
Center. Right, Wildcat Sanctuary.
So if anybody's listening and they want to come talk to the kids, let me know. We're booking speakers.
Well, you're saying, I'm thinking of all these different people I talk in the podcast. I can think of several people that would be great for your show. Hey, I have a question for you. When I was taking notes, when I was looking at all the thing, one of the people that quoted you guys saying what a great thing you were doing, Ethan, was that Life House of Animals or whatever. Is that by you guys? LIFE?
Yeah, that's where we got Dixie.
Yeah, that's where we got our second youngest dog, Dixie.
Okay. And by the way, you have a bunch of rescue pets now, right? How many of you guys? You have 2, is that what you said?
Yes.
They're all rescue, right?
Yeah, they are. Hank came from a rescue in Jackson, Mississippi, and Dixie came from Lifehouse.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now you've got your group going, and for you guys listening, the reason why I'm doing this is you're going to realize all the things he's doing, and we're going to come back to the bill, but let's talk about the book series now. It just cracks me up how much stuff you're doing. Let's go over the book series.
Yeah, we have a book series about our real, actually existed dog Molly, who is also a British Bull Terrier. We made the first book we've made, which is technically the last book, is Molly Says Goodbye, because when we were publishing it, we heard about a lot of people who had lost their dogs. It was about pet euthanasia.
Uh-huh. And it's written for kids?
Yeah,
Is that what okay,
it's-
so they can understand what's going on.
Adults like it as well because it's kind of a cute story. We took a different tactic.
Yeah, it was more about what the dog sees from the Rainbow Bridge
Yeah.
rather than the family
I like that
point of
idea.
view.
Yeah, she just basically goes to sleep, and wakes up and she's at the Rainbow Bridge and there's gravy rivers and tennis ball trees and all these things. Like Ethan said, that's the last one in the series. We're going to do the rest. Molly was actually a puppy mill rescue. She was a breeder dog. So the first book is Meet Molly, and we're working on that right now. It's already written. I've just got to get it edited. But it talks about, puppy mills and how to avoid them. We have other ideas like Molly Meets a Bully, which will be about breed bans. He's one to tell.
Molly Meets a Boy, what we were thinking was to have Molly go to the dog park and hear from another dog that big killer dog was moving into the neighborhood, and then the next day sees a pit bull there and tells the pit bull, and the pit bull's like all scared and going, where?
Cute. And well, you know what? It's a good lesson, and especially when there's a bully, teach people about bullies. But then that remind me. So you also have another bill that passed, I believe, on the puppy mill thing. Is that? Can you walk through that a little bit?
Yeah. Me and Lifehouse worked on a local ordinance to ban the sale of puppy mill puppies and kittens in pet stores and local places.
So this is in town where you guys are.
Yeah, this is in Frankfort, Kentucky. They can't sell them in, you go and you'll see people set up at Walmart, like with puppies.
Sure.
And they can't do that in public places or pet stores. And that's because, a good breeder is never going to sell a dog like that.
Yeah.
They want to know.
They're going to check you out just as much as you would them, because they've put a lot of work into raising these puppies. They love them. And they care about them. And they're going to want to make sure that their puppy is going to a good home, who's going to give them a good life.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay, so you got that passed in the city, and is it under your name or is it under Lifehouse or something? I vaguely remember reading something this a while back ago.
It actually was quite a surprise because on the floor while they were passing the ordinance, it actually got named after me. So now it's the Ethan Branscum Puppy Mill Ordinance.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was a surprise. We didn't expect that.
Yeah.
And Lifehouse was amazing. I want to give a shout out to them because we Ethan talked to them and they ran with it. Like, they were fully in support. They were great. All of the volunteers at Lifehouse. So if you're looking for an animal, or you're looking for a shelter to support, I would highly recommend them. They do a lot of great things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm sure that they support it because when you look at the rescue animal, when you have the puppy mills or people that are out there trying to make $5 on an animal that they raise just to make some money, those are the dogs more than likely are going to end up in a rescue.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And then let's talk about the other thing you do. Are you guys getting tired listening out there? Anyways, the supply drives. I know you've done a lot of that. You've done a few of those. So let's talk about those. Now, again, he just turned 12, you guys. Anyway, so go on. Talk a little bit about the supply drives.
Well, so far we've done 3. We've done 2 for here in Kentucky. One was for when tornadoes did a lot of damage here in Kentucky.
In Western Kentucky.
And then there was a huge amount of flooding during COVID. And we also did a supply drive for the hurricane victims in North Carolina.
That's so amazing.
I want to talk about the North Carolina one because it's kind of funny because the other 2 were great and they were, good-sized supply drives. And we have actually done 4 because remember we did one for the shelter in Hazard.
Yes.
Or Harlan.
So technically 4. Sorry about that. 3 disaster ones.
We put this North Carolina fundraiser, or I'm sorry, supply drive up online, and we literally had Amazon trucks showing up at our house, like full, half full, and it was all coming to us.
Yeah, the guy who helped deliver it asked, "What did you order, man?"
My husband, Ethan and I were gone to I think maybe it was when the second reading of the ordinance was. I can't remember, but the Amazon guy comes up and he's like, "Dude, what'd you order?" Because it's just boxes, and boxes and boxes.
That's so great.
We had literally like a walkway through our house.
Yeah.
But how awesome is that, though? Really, you know what? I always tell people, here in America, there's a lot of things that we can complain about, but there are a lot of big hearts here, too. People really willing to try to help out.
There was a story. Yeah, there's a story about that. Ethan did not go to North Carolina with us, just because I wasn't sure what we were going to see.
Right.
This was, like we were still having to get like back ways in to get into the cities. But there was an older gentleman, and when we brought the pet supplies, he came up and he's like, "I'm so glad I've been cooking my cat eggs." Because he had chickens and he only had eggs and he had a skillet, so that's all he had to feed them. So we brought food, and he was like, "Thank you," and it was a good feeling, to know we helped that need, which is, obviously people are important and come first, but that's something that kind of people don't think about a lot of times, is that there are pets, and I know for a lot of pet owners, their pets are as important as any other family member. So.
Or sometimes more, trust me, at the end of the day. But, the thing is, when there's a disaster, and it comes up every now and then, whatever people at rescue I'm talking to, sometimes you got to leave. There's no way you can stay. And you can't get your animals because they ran away because they got scared or whatever. And then all these animals are out there scared to death trying to figure out what they need to do. So it's a horrible situation one way or another. But now let's go back to, you went through your first one, and COVID happened on the law for the animal of the state. Let's walk through what's happened since then. You were at 7 then. You got a couple years of COVID. So walk through what's happened since then.
Well, we started the Rescue Pet Project page during COVID, as we've already said. Then we did the first 3 supply drives. Most recently, we've done the North Carolina supply drive. Towards the tail end of COVID, we started the Junior Animal Advocates, and that's pretty much where we are now.
I think he's asking.
Yeah, but no, you've gone to I know you're on number 6 trying to get the law through the state. So what's happened? So it made it through. COVID happened. Then you went to another politician to get them to pass the bill. What happened with all these other ones?
Well, we have had multiple different sponsors. We had Representative Sherilyn Stevenson,
Samara Heverin.
Samara Heverin, Representative Southworth.
Mm-hmm. It's just not gotten any traction yet.
So when they do that and they sponsor you, do they bring it to the floor? Because you've already made it past the committee. Do you have to go back to the committee each time?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so have you made it past the committee again other than that first time?
Nope. Unfortunately not. It hasn't even been getting assigned to committee recently.
So you need a good PR group to get the word out so those guys feel guilty and have to do something for once at the end of the day, right?
We're also trying currently to get a national pet to make the rescue pet the U.S. pet.
Well, I think you should have big dreams. So hopefully, because when I was reading, I saw that there are a few states that now have as their rescue pet animal. They have that. Some states have already done it, and so it would be logical if you guys could get that through in Kentucky. Then you go for the national level. You're probably already going for the national level just based on what my experience with you guys are. But from that standpoint, so what do you do now? So do you have a new sponsor now that's doing that, trying to get that through?
Yes.
Okay, and who is that? So everybody knows. So he knows he needs to do it, or she needs to do it. Who is that?
I believe it was Representative Hancock. She was actually just elected this year.
So Representative Hancock. So you guys listening probably need to write a letter to her, by the way.
Yes. Erica Hancock is her name.
Yeah.
She's great. She's an animal lover. She has a dog. So we're really excited. And they are currently in recess, I think, and she's going to introduce it when she gets back. So, yay.
And what I'll do, and I'll get this from you guys later in the description, we'll have that where how you get a hold of her if you want to do something like that for you guys that are listening. Because let's make this happen. Because I think what a great message it would be. One for Kentucky, and two is, for Ethan to get it to the U.S. Because keep in mind, the idea behind this is that whatever state you're in, if it's your state animal, it's for the ones that have been rescued in your state. So what you're doing is promoting people getting rescue animals. And I think it's smart across the board. And I don't see any reason why we wouldn't do in the U.S. other than some political stupid agenda, right?
We learn things in DC work a lot differently than on the state level.
People that work in government work a lot different than the regular people. Anyways, I don't want to get there. Anyway,
it gets harder the farther up you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it does, because there's bigger things. Not, I wouldn't say bigger, just more things. They have more agenda, more things on their agenda. So I want to get back to your advocacy group, okay? And I want to get into it a little bit for people who are listening. If there are kids listening or parents that have kids, if they want to be involved, how do they get involved?
They can just PM the page, and Ethan's social media accounts, he's on pretty much everything. And just let us know they're interested, and we'll talk to them. It's kind of taking off. Like I said, it took off more than we anticipated. And we're actually in the process of incorporating it as a nonprofit. And my dream is that it will be like a humane education program and teach kids everywhere about it. And then maybe teachers can use some of the materials.
Right.
So that's where we're going.
So is there an age range? I mean, is there any restrictions for people that want to be involved? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Currently, most of our kids are like age 8 to 9 to middle school.
Okay.
We can adapt. Some of these kids, as I'm sure you can see, kind of like this is older material as far as,
Sure.
High schoolers could probably get a lot out of this as well. Just because, civics and politics is convoluted. There's so many things that we didn't know when we started about, like how the process works. There's so many, it's so much more difficult than the I'm just a Bill song.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't just sit on Capitol Hill and get passed.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So you're talking like age, like 7 or 8 to like 13, I guess. Is that right around there?
Yeah, most of our kids. We have a younger girl. She's like 8 now, I think, but most of them are like 9 to 12 to 13. That seems to be the biggest range. And it works well for that age range. So we run with that. Like I said, it started as a fun project, and as everything we've done, it kind of started as one thing and it's ballooned into another.
Yeah.
Well, you guys are so driven. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you, I wish I had your energy. So anything that people can do other than, I was saying, write to Hancock, but anything people can do to help promote what you're doing, because I think it's a brilliant idea, one, and I just think it's the right thing to do. Is there anything else people can do to support you guys on that?
Well, just like writing your local representative, that will really help. You can call them. Honestly, not helping us directly, but if you want to help animals in general, one thing I would recommend is volunteering at your local shelter or donating to your local shelter just to help them out.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a real smart thing. And the reason why I wanted you to say that, Ethan, is I can say it all day long, but hearing from somebody that's people that are your age out there hearing that's a great thing for them to hear too, because it's a lot of fun too. It may be a little bit of work, but it's a lot of fun giving back, isn't it?
Yeah. Hey, you get to spend hours hanging out with animals. You can't beat that.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, okay, now we've talked about all these other projects. Are there any other projects you guys are working on? Because I'm sure enough not doing enough. Anything else? You got anything else in the works? I'll bet you do, knowing you guys.
Oh, podcast.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we got to talk about that. Because, okay, so let me address that a little bit. So, for you guys listening, we've talked prior to this. So one of the things that if you are in Ethan's group, if you're in Spain, it's kind of hard to be there to hear somebody talk, even if it's a Zoom call. So now some of the thought processes of potentially having a podcast for Ethan to have a podcast, to bring on guests like, that are the experts in their field, similar to some of my guests, they can address things directly to kids. I think it's a great idea, Ethan. And Miche, I just think it's a great idea. The problem is bandwidth and time. That's the only thing I can see with it. But I think it's a real smart direction to look at.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're at that period of time now. So, Ethan, tell everybody, give them all your social media contacts, all that thing, so they can find you.
Well, let's see. On all of our platforms, we're under Ethan's Rescue Pet Project. We're on Facebook, Twitter, X, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram,
TikTok.
we're also on YouTube if you want to watch the rescue report.
And TikTok, yeah.
Yeah, and TikTok.
We just got on TikTok. We got on that just in time for the whole whatever's going on with TikTok.
The implosion. Well, don't worry, Elon's going to own it apparently now. Anyways, for everybody listening, as I always say, I'll have all that information in the description area if you can't do it. And of course, you can always reach out to me. Now, Ethan, as you know, I tell a silly joke at each episode, and you have a joke for me, so I want to hear your joke.
Well, my joke is, where do the mice park their boats?
Where do mice park their boats? Where?
At the Hickory Dickory Dock.
I love that. Okay, so I know the old poem or whatever they call it, the Hickory Dickory Dock, going up the clock. So I know it totally. So I have one for you. I just figured I'd have one for you. What did the duck say when he got lipstick, when he bought some lipstick?
I don't know. What did you say?
Put it on my bill. Anyways, for everybody listening, obviously, we're always looking for people to tell jokes. I know my jokes are the worst. Thank God Ethan had one today. But if you've got one, please send me an email at mkyle@forrealpodcast.com. And if you got your grandkids, your nieces, your daughters, or whoever you want on, I promise you I'll get back to you. And gladly would be happy to have you guys on the show. Lastly, keep following. If you have great ideas for the podcast, that would be awesome. But most importantly, just keep following. You guys, Miche and Ethan, I know you just got done with school. You probably got homework to do or whatever you got to do, one of your many projects. I want to just thank you guys so much for being on it. Ethan, you're an inspiration to me. And Miche, you're an inspiration as a parent to me. I think you guys are just wonderful people. And thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
And then for everybody else out there listening, it's always, I really, really appreciate it. I love stories like this. But most importantly for me, from the bottom of my heart, thanks so much for listening. For real.
That concludes this episode of For Real with your host, Mark Kyle. For previous and future episodes of For Real, listen via all major podcast streaming sites.